Hello, dear children. How are you all? I welcome you all to today's English session. Dear students, today we are going to continue our story, and the name of our story was The Selfish Giant. So, let us have a quick recap of what we did in the previous session. So what does this picture remind you of? Very good. So dear children, this picture reminds us about the beautiful garden of that giant. And who used to play there? You're right, the children. And during what time? They used to play in the afternoon. So there was a big castle of the giant. But what happened one day? One day the giant came back. From where? You are right. He used to stay with his friend. But after 7 years, he came back to his garden. And the children were playing happily. After that, the giant, how did he feel on seeing the children? You got it again. Actually, the giant was very angry and he asked all the children to leave the garden. Moreover, he built a high wall around it. That was really selfish of him. And then, what had happened? You're right. The children, they just ran away, as we can see in this picture. And then one day, when spring season came, the giant's garden was full of snow and frost. Why? Because the children were not there. So the spring season also did not come to his garden. Right? We had done till this much. Now let us find out today what happens next. I cannot understand why spring is so late in coming, said the selfish giant as he sat at the window and looked out at his cold white garden. I hope there will be a change in the weather soon. But spring never came, nor did summer. So actually, what is happening in this garden? The giant was wondering. He was thinking that why spring is not coming to my garden. But spring never came. So who was there in his garden? It was all cold and white. Why? Because there was snow and frost. And the snow is cold and white. So the giant's garden looked all white. The spring never came. And even summer did not come. Let us see what will giant do now. One morning, when the giant woke up, he heard some lovely music. It was a little bird singing outside his window. It seemed to him the most beautiful music in the world. A nice perfume reached him. Hoping that some spring had come to the garden at last, the giant jumped out of the bed and looked out. What did he see? So, dear children, what happened one day? One morning, the giant heard some lovely music. Lovely, you understand? Which gives us a nice feeling. So, there was a beautiful music. Was somebody playing it? No, it was actually a little bird that was singing outside his window. And it seemed means looked like. So it looked to him. Who is him here? Yes, you're right, the giant. So the giant found this music as the most beautiful music. And then a nice perfume reached him. What was that nice fragrance of? Yes, it was of beautiful flowers. So he hoped that spring had come to his garden at last. And with this feeling, he was full of excitement, and so he jumped out of the bed to find out that actually the spring was there or not. Now let us see, what did he see? So please remember, this is a very good sentence. What kind of sentence is this? Yes, you're right. It is an interrogative sentence. And because it is past tense, when we use did, we use the first form of the verb. Okay? So we should keep on revising our grammar. Now let us see further. We'll come back to grammar later on. Let us focus on the story. So he saw the most wonderful sight. Sight means view, a scene. Through a hole in the wall, the children had crept in. Crept is the past form of the verb creep. And creep means when you move slowly on your knees. And they were sitting in the trees. The trees were so glad to have the children back again that they had covered themselves with blossoms. The birds were flying around, chirping with delight, and the flowers were looking up through the green grass and laughing. Some children were playing on the grass. It was a lovely scene. So, what all did the giant see? Yes, the giant saw the most beautiful sight. Wonderful means beautiful. Through a hole, the children had come to his garden, and they were all sitting in the trees. Now, why is it in the trees? It should be on the trees. Dear children, when the trees were covering them, that is why it is written in over here. Okay. Now the trees were so glad. Glad means happy. Alright? They were so happy because the children were there. And so in happiness, the trees had covered themselves with flowers. Blossoms means flowers. The birds were also coming and they were all chirping with delight. You remember yesterday also we did this word? Delight means happiness. And then the flowers were looking up through the green grass and they were laughing. Some children were playing on the grass. So it was a lovely scene. And you can imagine this scene with flowers everywhere, with birds, with trees covered with leaves, children roaming and playing all together. Yes, it looks so wonderful. That gives such a good feeling. You can see this sentence. This is an exclamation mark. So this sentence is an exclamatory sentence. So we should read it with proper feeling. Okay? It was a lovely scene. We should put that feeling of happiness in our reading also. Alright? Now let us see that this scene remains there or not. Okay? Only in one corner of the garden, it was still winter. A very small boy was crying as he could not reach up to the branches of a tree. So that is really a unpleasant thing, a sad situation, that in one corner of the garden, it was still winter. Why? Because a boy was crying there. And why was the boy crying? He could not reach up to the branches of the tree. Now, dear children, here I would like you to understand this point, that wherever the children were there was spring at that part of the garden. Whereas wherever, at whatever place the children were not there, like here in one corner the child was crying, so the spring was not there. It was still winter in that area. Okay? So in the story, the spring comes only in that part of the garden where there was happiness, which was full of children. Now, as the giant looked at this child, his heart melted. How selfish I have been, he said. Now I know why spring did not come here. I will knock down the wall, and my garden shall be the children's playground forever and ever. He was really very sorry for what he had done. That is really good. Now the giant had realized. His heart melted means his heart changed. And what did he see? Why did his heart change? Because when he saw that the child was crying, and where the child was crying, it was still winter, this scene changed his heart. And so when he looked at the child, he understood that he was very selfish. And what did he decide later then? He decided that yes, he will knock down the wall and he will give his garden to the children. Right? And that is why he is saying that my garden shall be the children's playground forever and ever. So dear children, finally the giant understood. He understood that why spring did not come to his garden, and he felt sorry for what he had done. Can you tell me what he had done? Yes, he had not shared the garden with the children. So he was really sorry for this action of him. So that teaches us that whenever we find some mistake, whenever we find that if we are wrong, we should correct ourselves. Okay, that is a very important learning over here. Now let us see that actually the giant stick to his words. Actually, did he knock down the wall or not? Let us find out. So we can see here that he crept. So he crept downstairs. Who is he here? Giant. Okay. And opened the front door quite softly and went out into the garden. Because he was looking it all from his window. So he went out to his garden. But when the children saw him, they were so scared that they all ran away. Yes, because the children did not know that the giant had changed. So when the children saw him, they were so frightened, they were so afraid, they were so scared that they all ran away. The winter came back again, because that was the story going on, that when children were there, spring was coming. Now when the children ran away, spring also got disappeared. And so it was all winter everywhere. Only the little boy in the corner did not run. His eyes were full of tears and he did not see the giant coming. So because the little boy was crying, his eyes were full of tears, he did not see the giant, and so he did not run. The giant gently picked him up and put him on the branch of the tree. Birds came and sang on the tree, and there were blossoms on it again. So that was really beautiful, because the giant did not get angry on that boy. What did he do? He picked up the boy and put him on a branch of the tree. And looking at this, the birds came back. And everywhere there were flowers. Now let us see what happens next. The little boy flung his arms around the giant's neck and kissed him. That was such a lovely scene. You remember, the children were all scared, but now the little boy was loving the giant. That was a big change. When the other children saw that the giant was not wicked any longer, wicked means bad, they came running to him. Back along with them came spring. It's your own garden now. little children, said Giant. He took a big hammer and knocked down the wall. So that was a big change in the giant now. He did not shout at the children. Instead, he asked all the children that it was their garden now. He took his hammer and knocked down the wall. Knocked down means, in boxing when players knock down each other. Yes, they bring each other to the ground. So in the same way, he also knocked down and broke the wall. All day long, the children played in the garden. And in the evening, they came to Giant to bid him goodbye. Every afternoon when the school was over, the children came and played with the giant. Years passed by. As the giant grew old, he sat on a chair and watched the children playing. He would say, I have many beautiful flowers, but the children are the most beautiful flowers of all. So just like every story, this story also ended happily. And we have got a happy ending. So in the end, the giant had changed. He used to play with the kids. Every afternoon, the school got over, and when the children came, they all played in the giant's garden, and he was also happy looking at the beautiful flowers in the form of children. So finally, our selfish giant was changed, was transformed into a friendly and caring giant. That was a lovely story. Now, dear children, today you are going to read the story, practice the reading section. Later on in next section, we are going to attempt the back exercise questions. Now, before we end, let us see the beautiful pictures that are shown in this chapter. So, we have one picture over here that shows that the children are playing in the garden. This is the starting of the story, right? They are all playing happily. There are birds, there are trees. Then we have next picture. What is this about? Yes, here the giant is getting angry. The children are running away. So the giant is driving away them. Right? He is asking them to be out of his garden. Why am I sharing these pictures? Because I want all of you to be able to describe these pictures in your words. Okay? Now, let us have another picture. What is happening here? Yes, here the giant is feeling happy. The children are happily playing with him. So that means the giant had changed. This is the end of the story. Now, dear children, after that we have seen our pictures and we have talked about them, because you should be able to talk about them in your own words. Okay, there are many situations in this chapter based on which there are no pictures. Like here, there is a scene, right, in which there is snow and frost in the giant's garden, and everywhere else in the country there is spring. But there is no picture related to this scene, right? Similarly, there is one more scene here. When the children had crept in the giant's garden, they were sitting in the trees and the trees were all happy, right? The grass, the flowers, everything is there. So this scene is also not described in the form of a picture, I am saying. There is no picture related to this scene as well, or this paragraph you can say. Similarly, there is this, that only in one corner of the garden, it was still winter, a very small boy was crying. Why? Because he could not reach up to the branch of the tree. So when the giant looks at him, his heart melts. So even these two paragraphs are not shown as any picture, right? We can write here scene 3. Everything else is shown in the form of picture in this chapter. Now, as today is your homework day, I want all of you to enjoy one thing. And what is that? What do the children enjoy the most? Yes, the children love drawing. So, I want all of you to draw one picture. You can pick up any paragraph, like this paragraph you can take, and you can draw a picture that shows all about this paragraph. You can draw a picture related to this paragraph, scene 2 where I have written. Or you can draw a picture related to these two paragraphs where a child is sitting in one corner and he is crying and there is snow there, and everywhere else is is spring, right? And the giant comes. So just enjoy your drawing and just draw any one picture which is not shown in this chapter. Okay. So you can pick up any of these three situations. One situation, this is number one situation which is not shown in the form of a picture. This is second situation and this is third situation. So you can draw a picture based on any situation which is given in this chapter, but picture is not drawn about it in the story. Okay? So this is your homework for today. Enjoy your homework. Draw a beautiful picture in your English notebook. Color it. You can use pencil colors. And in the next session, we are going to start and complete the back exercise questions. Okay? Till then, in the weekend, practice your reading and draw the picture as explained. So see you later. Goodbye.